So FlutterFlow has finally done the unthinkable. They released an official MCP server, and that is a big, big deal. And so in today's video, we are going to be talking about why this matters. We're also going to talk about earlier attempts by community members and different people, including myself, who tried to build their own kind of MCP connection to FlutterFlow. And we are going to have a rundown of how this works, what you can do and what you can't do with it, and some final thoughts at the end of the video. And as a longtime FlutterFlow user, I can't wait to test out this amazing feature. Now, what does this feature do and why is it so important? Well, if you're like me and you love using AI, you love using AI agents to do all kinds of things, you would have a problem because while an AI agent can build a lot of things, it cannot go where there's a barrier, right? Like it cannot magically go into your FlutterFlow account and build an app for you unless you give it a right connection, a right bridge to do that. And that's exactly what MCP is, right? So if you Google for MCP and you maybe land on a page that looks something like this is one of the official pages for the Model Context Protocol, which is what MCP stands for. You can read more about it, but in a nutshell, it allows AI agents to connect to all kinds of different tools, apps, all kinds of different places, right? And it's a standard that's used throughout, the different tools that exist, right? You can use it with Codex, you can use it with Claude Code. All of the major AI agents support this protocol. And then there's all kinds of apps on the other side that expose a server that your AI agent, whether you're using Codex or Claude Code, is going to be acting as an MCP client can connect to. And so up until this point, there was really no way for us as users of AI agents to connect to something like FlutterFlow. And that is because there was no official server to do it. Now, in the FlutterFlow community, there were people building these MCP servers, right? And they were kind of hacky and they worked here and there. And I also built an MCP server and kind of worked here and there. You can kind of do things. It had its own issues, but that was the best that we can offer until just a few days ago, FlutterFlow released their own official MCP server, allowing any AI agent to connect to your FlutterFlow account, to grab your FlutterFlow project, and do all kinds of interesting operations. Now, what is the scope of the things that you can do? Well, supposedly you can do a lot of things with it, right? You can edit pages, you can create pages, you can, modify actions, and all kinds of other things. And so in today's video, we're going to be running through the paces and we're going to see some of the things that an AI agent can do and hopefully reach a limit of some of the things that it cannot do. And as a follow-up video later on, I'm going to be building complex apps to really push this MCP connection to its limit and see what kind of apps I can really build. All right, so here's the post. FlutterFlow MCP is here. The most requested feature in FlutterFlow history has finally landed, and that is probably not a hyperbole, right? It has been one of the most requested features as of late, okay? And so what you want to do is you want to click over here, and then you can learn more about this, right? So when you get here, you're going to be on pub.dev. And this is the FlutterFlow CLI, which stands for Command Line Interface. Build, edit, and ship FlutterFlow apps from your terminal, right? One CLI, two tools. FlutterFlow AI, built for agents, a declarative Dart tool for building and editing FlutterFlow projects with an MCP server, and FlutterFlow Export Code, which lets you pull a Flutter code base out of any FlutterFlow project and into your editor. Okay, and so they give you some instructions here. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do this together. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to copy this command to install the CLI. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this right here. Okay, so it activated FlutterFlow CLI. Next thing that we want to do is we want to scaffold a workspace. The init wizard will prompt you for the rest. So we want to run this command right here, and it's downloading the FlutterFlow AI SDK dependencies, MCP, FlutterFlow. Now it wants my FlutterFlow API key. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my FlutterFlow API key. And you can do that by going to your dashboard, My Account, and grab your API key. Okay, now it's asking me for an existing project to edit. Okay, and you can also press enter to create a new app. So I'm going to go to my projects here, and we're going to pick a project. So let's see this project right here. All right, so here we have a sample project, and what it wants is the project ID, and you can get the project ID in the URL. So it's everything after the project, right? So you can get this ID, and it's gonna look something like this. Okay, so that's my project ID right there. I'm gonna go ahead and press enter. Okay, so it says ready to create FlutterFlow AI Workspace, edit existing projects. I'm gonna say yes, and it's gonna go ahead and create a FlutterFlow AI Workspace for me. Okay, so it's fetching project metadata. It's got everything. Created FlutterFlow AI Workspace. Next steps is you want to go into this My App and start your preferred coding agent and start building. Okay, so now I can run Codex in here, and it's going to figure out the rest. And if you go back to the docs, they have this toolbox over here. Run these from inside a FlutterFlow AI Workspace. Agents call them, and so can you. Okay, so you can build, you can explore, you can do AI integration, plan and audit, diagnose, stay current, learn, and then you can run this from inside a workspace for the full command list and per command flags. And so I have prepared a list of prompts that we can run with this MCP server to test out some of the features, right? Beginning from very, very simple to a little bit more advanced, just to kind of get a feel for what we can do. All right, so here's my list of prompts, okay? And so let's do an inspect only, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. We're gonna go in here and I'm gonna paste that over there, and let's see what happens. All right, so now it's checking out all the pages, profile settings, login, item detail. And if we go in here, you can see it right here, right? Profile settings, item detail, login, all the pages and all the components. All right, and there we go. Here's our report, right? Project demo 2, which is the name of this project right here. Dashboard, login, item detail, profile settings, components, what we see here. App state, no FlutterFlow app state are declared. So if you take a look here, where's our app state? Right there. There's no app state. Data sources, actions, right? We have the theme, we have the risks even. Auth protection looks incomplete for direct routes, okay? So we can take a look at that. Let's see what else we can do. So we can ask it to refresh the project context and tell me whether the local snapshot is current. Okay, because what's happening here is that because a FlutterFlow app is fairly complex, right? And I have a fairly simple app. But when you have more complex apps, it can't just keep sending data back and forth. And so what it's doing, it is getting a snapshot. It's basically getting a copy of the app that is relatively fresh because it's just gotten it. And so, if you are not sure whether that snapshot is still fresh or not, you can ask it. Okay, so you can refresh it and you can ask it to tell you whether that local snapshot is current, right? So in case it gets edited and you're not sure whether you have the latest copy, you can do this, right? You can check if you have the latest copy. You can reconcile it. Okay, so I'm going to paste this. And so now the refresh is still running, which is expected because it also refreshes the generated Flutter snapshot. Okay. Okay. Now it says refresh successful. The local snapshot is current, etc., etc. Okay. So now we know that we're up to date. Okay. Now let's go ahead and ask it for a small safe UI change, right? Plan a small safe UI change, rename one label, or add a small section to an existing page. Okay. So let's go ahead and try this. So I'm going to give it a prompt and let's go ahead and let's say we wanted the login page. We wanted to change client hub to something else. So I'm going to say login page. and change client hub to James no code. Okay. And let's see what happens. All right, so we have the plan, inspect login page to confirm the current client hub text node and selector path, update. I'll apply this only to login page and avoid touching layout, etc. Okay, confirm. Okay, so it found the exact node, right? Login, body, children, all of this. This is the thing right here, and it should change it. So let's see if it's going to be reflected automatically. Okay, and there it is. And it's automatic. The edit pushed successfully as commit. Okay, I'm refreshing the local context now so that metadata and generated snapshot match the remote change. Okay, so that we know about it because we've changed it there. Now we need to ensure that our context is up to date as well. Now you can also do a validate, right? You can validate the proposed FlutterFlow change without pushing it, okay? And you can apply the change and then tell me exactly what changed and where I should verify it. So we've just done this as 2 steps. We did not do validate, but you can also do validate as well. Okay. Another thing that we can do is we can do a useful feature test. Try one practical test. Add a simple settings screen with profile, notifications, and logout rows using the existing theme. Plan first, then validate, then apply. Okay, so this is a good pipeline, right? This is a really good pipeline because you do not want to do something that's going to screw up your app. You want it to plan, to validate, and then to commit. So let's go ahead here, and I already have a profile settings, but I may not have, I have notifications here as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this page and then I'm going to refresh the snapshot. Okay. And then we're going to do it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this now so that it reflects that the page has been deleted. Okay. So now the local snapshot is current. Okay. And now we can go back here and we can paste that. Add a simple settings screen with profile logout using the existing theme. Plan first, then validate, then apply. Okay, so we have the plan, and it's telling me the project already has profile settings, and it does not. Okay, confirm, double check whether it has profile settings. Okay, so let's see if it's able to confirm that we don't have it. Okay, I'll refresh the context from the server first. Okay, there's no profile settings in project context. Okay, but it's telling me there's an orphan local file, but it's stale residue. Okay, that's fine. So updated plan, add a new settings page, not modify profile settings, confirmed. Okay, so it has created the page. Look at this. This is the page, right? This is the Flutter code for the page. This is what's underneath all of this, okay? And it's checking it. It's running this ensure page. Now it needs to run the validation pass before applying it remotely. So Dart test passed. The FlutterFlow validation is still running. Now it has an error, right? Navbar requires at least 2 pages. Validation found an existing project level. The FlutterFlow navbar is enabled, but currently has fewer than 2 pages after profile settings was deleted. Okay, you see that? This validation is a FlutterFlow feature, right? It's not so much a Flutter feature. It's more like how FlutterFlow is set up. And let's see if it's able to fix it. And so what it's doing, it's running FlutterFlow AI docs, right? Searching for that navigation to see how we can fix it, right? Which is pretty cool. All right, the fix is to register dashboard and the new settings page as bottom nav items in the same edit script. Okay, so it figured out the fix. And now test passed again. Okay, so now existing project, fix the error and rerun. Okay, validation now succeeds. You see this little green, that means it has succeeded because before it would have been red. You see it's red over here. Okay, and it should appear soon. All right, and that's the page, I guess, settings. Yeah, right there is the page. Okay, added settings, and that's what we have. So it looks really good. It looks pretty nice. We have profile, we have this notification toggle, we have the logout. Looks good. And last thing, we have a stress test. Ask for something slightly harder. Create a reusable card component and use it on one page. Keep the change minimal and compatible with the visual builder. Okay. So let's see if it's able to do this. All right, so it's going to add a settings summary card component with text params and insert one instance near the top of the settings page. Okay, so this is the code right here, settings summary card, app.component, reusable compact card for highlighting a settings summary. Okay, so it should appear here. Okay, validation succeeded. Let's see if it works. And there it is, settings summary card. And this should be here as well. This is it. This is the component. And said this is going to be a text component, and it is all text fields. Look at that. And that's the component, okay, that is going to be displaying these fields, right? Or these are all fields that are passed as parameters, right? As parameters from the outside. Okay, context and generated code are refreshed, added a reusable component, and used it on one page. Okay, everything passed. It is right here, which is kind of cool because this would have taken, some time to actually do it yourself, right? Not a lot of time, but still time that you're saving by having an agent do it for you, which is actually pretty cool. And so that was a quick rundown of this long awaited feature that a lot of people, including myself, have been waiting for in order to use our agent, whether it's Codex, Claude Code, Gemini, or something else to build our apps with. And so I'm going to be testing this more and more. And so if you want to see me try to build even a more complex app, because this is a nice app, we just modified a couple things. We didn't really build an app from scratch. But if you want to see me build a truly complex app, maybe with Supabase, maybe push notifications, maybe this, maybe that, leave a comment below because I'm going to be experimenting a lot with this feature and seeing how it works and seeing what you can do with it. And by the way, if you're trying to level up your no-code skills, definitely go ahead and join our amazing Patreon community, which you can do by clicking the first link in the description below the video.